Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ward 13 with John Hopwood. I am not John Hopwood. My name is Matt Connarton, and Mr. Hopwood invited me to guest host his show for him today. He's probably at the beach sipping lemonade, or who knows. I'm just kidding. But we know exactly where he is, but I'm not going to tell you. We'll keep it a secret. So, welcome to the show. John was actually on my show, Matt Connarton Unleashed, this week, which you can find. It's actually currently right on the homepage of IPM Nation if you want to check it out. And we had a great time. But he invited me on today to fill in for him. And our guest is Bonnie Wright from New Hampshire Right to Know GMO. Did I get that right?
You did.
All right, awesome. That's a long name for the organization. That's a lot to remember.
Well, right to know. We got to know what to right to know what, and New Hampshire. So
it kind of rhymes. Yeah. Right to know GMO.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to discuss the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and you are in opposition to this, correct?
Yes.
Like a lot of folks, and we do actually. Maybe we could take a look at that slide if you can get it up that's on in the background because we have a slide that shows the countries that are involved in this. Obviously, the U.S. being one of them. There are 12 countries total, correct?
Total of 12, yeah.
Okay. And,
all in the Pacific Rim.
Okay, so there's a map for you. And we have some other slides too that we'll try to get in as the show progresses. But can you tell us, for those who don't know, and you know it's become shorthand in the media, obviously the abbreviation TPP, but what is the TPP exactly? And then we'll get into what are some of the concerns about it.
Well, TPP stands for Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Okay.
It's a massive trade deal, one of the biggest we've ever had. We had NAFTA a few years ago.
This is much bigger, right?
This is called NAFTA on steroids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's big, it's huge. The concern is it's being put together by 600 companies in secret. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's in there. We know a small amount. We know WikiLeaks has leaked a couple of chapters of it. Mm-hmm. There are 29 chapters. 5 of them have to do with trade. Mm-hmm. The rest are protecting the 600 corporations.
Mm-hmm. That is the secrecy around it is very concerning. And obviously, when you have something like this where the only information you can get really about the details are what leaks out, and then when what leaks out, the little bit that does leak out is deeply concerning, then, you know, the mind starts to wonder, well, what's the stuff that hasn't leaked out, and how bad is that, you know? The political dynamic is interesting because obviously when you have a Democratic president and a Republican House and Senate, you know, they're constantly at odds and there isn't a lot of agreement on anything. But now we have a Democratic president where his own party, for the most part, is against him. A lot of energy against this within the Democratic Party. And the Republicans are totally with Obama on this. And the secrecy, I mean, and just as a side comment, you know, Obama had promised that this would be the most transparent administration in history or modern history, however he said it. And that clearly has not been the case. And this is a pretty glaring example of how that's not been the case. Can you tell us some of the rationale they've tried to put forward, excuses perhaps as to why this has to be so secret and why we're not supposed to know what these, what did you say, 600 corporations?
600.
Why we can't know what these corporations are up to?
Yeah. Brain just stopped.
Yeah. It's a lot. I'm
sorry.
It's a lot to process. What you know? What do they say?
They're afraid that if the American people find out what's in this trade deal,
yeah,
that we're going to oppose it.
Yeah.
Some of the senators, such as Elizabeth Warren, have gone in, taken a look at this. She hasn't looked at it. People have come out telling her they've looked at it,
yeah,
and they're appalled, and they're saying that if the American people know what is in this deal, they're going to oppose it.
Yeah.
It really is not for us. People think about a free trade deal and they think about people around the world holding hands, singing Kumbaya.
Right, right.
It's not.
Yeah.
And this is not what this is. It blows my mind. It really does. Leaves me speechless at times.
Now, does Congress, do they have access to be able to actually go and read it, or?
Some members of Congress have been allowed to go in to read it. They're not allowed to take notes. They're not allowed to take cameras.
Wow.
So they have to remember what they saw in there, and then they have to sign an agreement that they will not disclose what they just read about.
Okay.
All they can do is come out shaking their head and saying, "Oh my,
right.
This is not good."
Right.
But they can't do a whole lot more than that.
What is the fast track aspect of this? And I know we have a couple of slides on this.
Fast track is a large bill that has been introduced fairly recently that will take the control of the negotiations away from Congress. The U.S. Constitution says that members of Congress negotiate trade deals.
Mm-hmm.
Fast track was something brought in by Nixon. It's been used a few times, 12 times out of maybe 500 trade deals.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
It's only been used a few times. It was used in NAFTA. It was used in the World Trade Organization deal. But most of our trade deals, we don't use it.
Okay.
Fast track just allows the United States trade representatives to enter into negotiations. Then the bill is put together, the final trade agreement is put together, and Congress has the right to vote yes or no. No amendments, no discussion. It just has to move forward.
Okay. Now, to kind of play devil's advocate on that, I can see how someone who is in favor of fast track would say, well, we have to get this done. How do you get anything done with Congress if they're going to nitpick every detail? Isn't it easier if we negotiate everything and then Congress can just vote on it, and a simple up or down vote? So I can see the rationale for it, and I assume they made. I remember NAFTA. I don't remember a lot of the details around it. I don't. For example, I didn't realize that fast track was used in that case. I do remember it was a hard sell.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say this is NAFTA on steroids, what are some of the commonalities between the two that are bad?
Well, we don't know enough about the TPP to be able to know.
Yeah.
But we believe we're going to lose jobs. We know that they're impacting the internet, that they're going to put regulations on the internet providers to control what we see, keep track of what we're looking at. We're not going to, there's severe copyright changes to the copyright laws.
Yeah.
Medicine, there's going to be a huge impact on medicine. They're taking the amount of time that a new drug can be saved before it can become generic, so that Americans and people in other countries, developing countries, will not be able to afford it.
That's extremely alarming.
That's a very alarming one.
Yeah.
Congress is saying, oh, we're not going to lose jobs, but they already have a plan in place to help the people who lose their jobs be retrained to have other positions. So
right.
We don't know yet how much jobs will be lost, but there will be a job loss.
Right. Something too that kind of jumped out at me, and we have John had given me some notes here, and something that really struck me is the regarding the environment. And let me just read this, and this is from the Wikipedia page, but Alana Solomon, Sierra Club's director of responsible trade, argued that the TPP could directly threaten our climate and our environment, including new rights that would be given to corporations and new constraints on the fossil fuel industry, all have a huge impact on our climate, water, and land. upon the publication of a complete draft of the environment chapter and the corresponding chair's report by WikiLeaks, of course, where else would we get it, right? In January 2014, the National Resources Defense Council and the Worldwide Fund for Nature joined with the Sierra Club in criticizing the TPP rather. Julian Assange described the environment chapter as, quote, a toothless public relations exercise with no enforcement mechanism, unquote. In January 2014, the Washington Post editorial board opined that congressional sponsors of legislation to expedite approval of the TPP in the U.S. already included provisions to ensure that all TPP countries meet international labor and environmental standards, and that the U.S., quote, has been made more productive by broader international competition and more secure by broader international prosperity, unquote. So that's kind of a counter-argument to that. But here's what's interesting about that to me is, the Obama administration has made a very big deal about climate change and the importance of protecting the environment, which I fundamentally agree with. I personally, I believe climate change is real. I do believe it's a threat. But it's interesting. It sounds more like empty rhetoric when they're negotiating a treaty that apparently doesn't really address the environment in any meaningful way. If there's language in it that suggests that we need to do certain things to protect the environment while there is no enforcement mechanism, then countries that aren't interested in lessening their greenhouse gas emission or whatever it is, I don't know enough about it to really speak in detail about that, but why would those countries, if there is no enforcement mechanism, why would they care?
Well, one of the things we haven't discussed is the ISDS clause that is in the TPP and in several other trade deals, including the one between Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
Okay.
ISDS, Interstate Disciplinary System, is when three tribunals, if a company feels that something is being done that impacts their ability to make a profit, they can go and they can sue the state or the county or the region or the country for affecting their potential to earn profits.
Okay.
What we're seeing already is through NAFTA that we have several lawsuits going on in Canada. There have been several that have gone on in Mexico. One of the selling points of this is that we haven't had any lawsuits against the United States.
Right.
And that just changed, so I'd like to talk about that in a moment. But
sure.
Right now, there is a company, a United States company, that wants to do fracking in Ontario underneath the St. Lawrence River. And the St. Lawrence River said, we don't think this is a good idea. And so they're being sued.
Okay.
So this ISDS clause is really concerning because Mexico got sued for wanting to avoid high fructose corn syrup. There was something around the corn issue. There is another one with a quarry in Canada that a U.S. mining company wanted to expand the quarry. They talked with the province. It looked like maybe it was going to go through, and then the province said, we don't think this is a good idea. We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so the company said, hey, you let us on. We thought we were going to do it. You're not letting us do it. So you're affecting our ability to make an income. So we're suing you.
Yeah.
United States a few years ago passed a law called the Country of Origin Labeling, the COOL law.
Okay.
If you notice, all of our food says comes from Chile, comes from China, wherever the food is grown or processed. That was put through to the World Trade Organization, who said, no, that's not proper. That is going to affect the other companies involved, other countries involved. It's going to affect their ability to make a profit. So if we see that our shrimp, if you Google shrimp in Vietnam,
Yeah.
you're going to throw up.
Really?
Okay. So if we see shrimp, people like myself, if I see shrimp from Vietnam, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Sure.
Vietnam is one of the countries involved in this.
Okay.
They feed their shrimp pig feces.
Okay.
So it's one of the dirtiest. It has a lot of bacteria in it.
Yeah.
So it's not a good thing for us to be eating.
Right. Right.
And we won't be able to tell.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we just lost the cool law. We're trying to decide now what to do about it.
Yeah.
Congress, the House, has already introduced a bill to try and repeal the cool law. And so it's all kind of up in the air right now, but it is not. That's one of the reasons why some of these massive trade deals with the ISDS clause is a bad deal.
Okay. In the macro, I mean, it kind of seems like it's almost. I know that some people are very concerned about our sovereignty and our economic sovereignty. It seems like. Oh, and by the way, we have a slide up of known coverages of the TPP, and this gives you an idea of all the different things, because we can only touch on a few in such a short time. But
it will impact every single American,
right,
in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Every single one of us will be impacted by it.
Absolutely. Is this kind of the end of our economic sovereignty in a way? Is this globalism on steroids?
If this passes, I'm not sure we're going to be a democracy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really, really worried about what's going to happen to my country, because I don't think it's going to be my country anymore.
Yeah. Because it's just like it gives so much power to the corporations, and I wonder. I mean, there's the cynical side of me that says, does it matter? Are we already there anyway? Because our government, we have this sort of for-profit system of government, and our government and the corporations and media, and I always forget who coined the phrase or the term corporatocracy, but it seems like we're already that anyway. But now we're going to be that on a larger scale and on a more global scale. It's like one big, it almost, not to get, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but it sounds like something conspiracy theorists discuss, where ultimately you end up with this sort of one world government, because everybody's interconnected and the corporations are running everything. And
I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know, I've been following this for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
The GMO labeling movement has been very concerned, and we became aware of it a couple of years ago. So I think we knew about it more than most of the world, or most of our country for a while. So we've been following as much as we can to know what was happening.
Sure.
One of our concerns, just an example of many things in the fast track, is that bill that they're working on right now is a rules for the U.S. trade representative to follow in the negotiation process. It sets the tone for them of what they should be working on.
Okay.
One of the things in that is that labeling of genetically engineered food is considered a trade barrier. So that's why my movement has gotten really, really riled up about this. And we see a lot of other food safety issues. As far as we know, one of the 29 chapters is not on agriculture, but the chief negotiating person of the agriculture part, which is tucked into little bits and pieces all over the document, is a former Monsanto lobbyist. Now, if you look at who all of the people involved are, these are, in these 600 companies, they're the presidents and CEOs. They're the lawyers that represent them, or the lobbyists that represent them. They're not way down, mid-lower management. These are top management people that are having impact on what is happening.
Yeah.
A little scary.
I wish I were surprised, but
Yeah.
what was that lawsuit that you mentioned where the United States part of the justification for this was the United States has never been sued under a
On
trade
the
agreement
cool law,
on the cool law. Is that
country of origin labeling.
yeah, but you said that was changing, or there was a lawsuit pending or something, or was that the St. Louis River thing? Was that what you were referring to?
The St. Lawrence River,
Or St.
they're
Lawrence
still
River,
waiting
sorry.
to find out what the penalty is. The
Okay.
cool law, we still don't know what the penalty is going to be.
Okay.
But the recommendation would be to change the wording of that or totally remove it. It had already been changed once to accommodate these folks. So,
Okay.
so
When do you know when NAFTA was happening? Was there this level of secrecy with NAFTA? I don't recall. I don't recall hearing that being nearly as much of a concern then. But it was, oh my God, 23 years ago.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up because it's just astonishing, and it's astonishing that more people aren't concerned about that. But also too, once this is implemented, I mean, this can't be undone realistically.
There's 12 countries involved in it right now.
Yeah.
It has an open door thing, so other countries can join if they agree to follow all the things. So
Sure.
we might not be able to negotiate who becomes part of this. China could be part of it.
Right.
Other countries. Congress, some members of Congress are upset that they haven't been able to negotiate who's involved right now. Brunei, a Sharia law country, is part of this deal.
Right.
So what can they say is affecting their abilities?
Right. Well, also too, when you mention that the other thing that comes to mind for me is whenever anything involving trade comes up, any kind of discussion, there's always this sort of it's almost like it's similar to the environmental argument in terms of human rights, and I know that slave labor, things like this. Some of these countries treat their workers terribly, and one of the other concerns I've heard is there's really not a lot of protection for workers in this, and essentially slave labor is okay according to this. There's no sort of enforcement mechanism to force countries to treat their people humanely, and it seems like, as Americans, we talk a lot about human rights, but historically, when our government is negotiating any kind of trade agreements, that all sort of gets put off to the side. I guess, capitalism is ultimately more important than human rights and how people are treated, and we kind of look the other way when it comes to that stuff.
We got to
Unfortunately,
make sure those 600 corporations make their profit.
right.
So
Exactly. In fact, there was. I know we're almost out of time,
but I do want to talk about the fast track a little bit more.
oh, please do. Yeah.
The Senate recently voted on the fast track bill, and they voted to move it forward.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. No, I know you're not feeling well. We're almost there. Have a gulp of water. Sorry, Bonnie's getting over bronchitis, but yeah, you had talked about I don't know, maybe we could put that slide up again if it's handy about the fast track, just so people know what we're talking about. Bonnie might have to tap out. I don't know.
The House.
Oh, there we go.
Although-
We got the slide. Yeah.
Early June.
Okay. And then call your Congress people and tell them how you feel about this and express your concerns. So they're going to vote. So the House will be voting in early June, and then so if fast track passes, then it's kind of a done deal, right? At that point, I mean, it's inevitable. It seems like, but we're out of time. So, which is probably
Site has more information about fast track and the TPP.
okay. What?
NH Right to Know GMO.org.
Okay, NHRightToKnowGMO.org. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Like I said, Bonnie's getting over bronchitis, but Bonnie Wright from New Hampshire Right to Know GMO. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And John Hopwood, thank you again for inviting me to guest host today. And don't forget to go to IPMNation.com. You can see my interview with John from this week on Matt Connarton Unleashed. And we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks, everybody.